Hi there, today we're going to be talking about the new album from the artist Moe. So Moe is kind of a one-stop shop for all things music, from what I can tell. She produces her own music, she composes it, she writes it, she sings it, she does everything, from what I can tell. Or at least that's how it looks on her Spotify bio. I can only assume that's all true and none of it's lies. I don't really know, but I hope. So with that said, this is her debut album called Occult. Leading up to this album, she actually released an EP and about 8 or 9 singles all throughout last year and through the beginning of this year too. And speaking of that EP, I personally am not really a fan. I think it kind of continues that trend of Enon Kawatini-ification of the Japanese pop scene. I like Indigo La End, I like Gesu no Kiwami Atome, I like his songwriting style, but it's getting kind of old. And I found that her EP was really in that Indigo La End style that I'm getting really tired of. So while I think the songs are fine and they probably find their own fan base among people who like Anon's music, I just did not really think they were my cup of tea. However, in my opinion, this new album is a total course correction, which I'm so happy to see. So regarding those other singles though, a lot of them show up on this album actually. For the most part, they are very kind of pop, dream pop, bedroom pop, city pop-esque. And while I do like that sound, I'm not the hugest fan of it, I would say. I do like it when it shows up across an artist's discography, but it's just not also really my thing. However, one thing I did notice was around the endpoint of last year, she kind of shifted that focus more to kind of electronic production as sort of the main focus of her music. That still had some exceptions though. She has a song called Overflowing, which is kind of this like Japanese pop twee sort of thing. If you listen to that song, you'll probably know what I'm kind of going for with that description. And it sounds very much like Ayano Kaneko and also Aimyon. So that's kind of where my head goes for that. So with that said, a lot of this album actually sounds very city pop-esque. I think her style of electronic production does really help it stand out against other city pop artists in the year 2024, of which there are millions upon millions. So let's talk about some of those bedroom pop songs. I feel like the most evident example of this is the song Kiss Me in the Rain. And yes, I do know that I said it's not really my cup of tea, this kind of version of city pop. I will say this song is probably one of my favorites on the whole album. I think Moe's vocals are fantastic, and I really like the vocal layering that she uses on this song too. I think that sounds fantastic. And the song just has this like really nice bounce to it too. So that's been very enjoyable in my opinion. Though to kind of round it back to what I was just saying about Indigo La End, it still kind of has that sonic quality to it, which I think she's actually able to well utilize in her own unique way, that it's not too much of a bother for someone like me. One thing I would like to mention though too, is that she has a real knack for writing hooks and choruses that are just extremely catchy. The song Moonchild, oh my god, that hook is so good. And on top of that too, it just has this very lush production that I think just sounds great. And there's also this like very playful guitar way in the back left channel that's there. It's not very noticeable, but because of the way it contrasts with the rest of the instrumental, it actually stands out pretty evidently. And I thought that was a really cool way to kind of mix it in with all the other just kind of everything happening. And similarly, I think the song In Love with Love just has a fantastic chorus there too. I like that a lot. Another song that I think is a really good example of her hook writing is the song Left on Earth. This song was actually one of those singles leading up to this album, and while I liked it there is also a self-remixed version of this song too called Earth on Left, which I actually like even more. And I gotta say, I love that version way more than the original, so it's kind of unfortunate that that's not the one that ended up on this album, though I will say I do still like the original version too, just not as much as that remix. But again, I want to mention this song just because I think the hook is also fantastic, and I think you should check this one out. It's for sure one of my favorite songs on the album. Speaking of which, there are 2 standout tracks on this album that I think are the actual best. The first of those is called Error 404 Ghost of Venus. This song actually was one of the singles as well, except it was called Blooming. Now this album version is actually 15 seconds longer, and that's actually not the only change present either. So the original version basically had the same production, however the synth used, it just had this much more flat sort of sound to it that was almost kind of annoying to be honest, but that got completely fixed and changed out here. And I really like how it sounds on this song now. I love this song. It is so cool. It is much improved. And the song just kind of goes crazy. Like, I love everything about it. The production itself really reminds me of Porter Robinson's side project Virtual Self. It sounds a lot like that, and it also sounds a lot like Eternal A Take One by Lil Uzi Vert. There are just these like very colorful kind of like laser sounds and phaser sounds, and it almost sounds like you're inside of a DDR song or something. I think it's so cool. I love this song. It is so much fun. But my absolute favorite song on this album is actually the one called Muse. Honestly, it might be one of my favorite songs of the whole year. Maybe potentially. I just think the production here is really beautiful, and it's kind of going for this like lo-fi chill hop sort of thing. Sort of. I think the lyrics are very well composed, and I also think that Moe sounds fantastic on the song too. There is this sample used after the chorus ends that is almost this like movie soundtrack from the like 60s or something. It's this very orchestral music original soundtrack kind of sample, and overall it fits the sound and the vibe of the song extremely well. For instance, for me, when I think about the word muse, I think about an orchestral composer. So having this kind of orchestral sample used in the song really fits it well, in my opinion. So those are my favorite songs. I will say there are a few that I don't quite need to go too in depth about. Like for example, immediately after Muse is the song Stargazer. And while I like it, I don't think it's a great follow-up to how good of a song Muse is. Though I will say this song is actually kind of an outlier in the track list in that it's very shoegazy. It really sounds to me like something Slowdive would have made, so that's sort of cool, I guess. And then the song after that is called No Disc, which has, I think, 10 times as many listens as any other song on this album on Spotify, and that's because this was released as a single, so I'm not too surprised there. It's by no means my favorite song on the album. It's not bad. There are no bad songs, but just really not my favorite. Generally, I think this album has a really nice sort of winter wonderland aesthetic to it. I feel like the production is very chilly, and it just kind of feels like a gust of wind is like blowing you all around, and I really like that. And I think that's maybe aided by the fact that Moe's whole color scheme is kind of like blue and pink pastels, so I just kind of get that sort of winter wonderland vibe from pretty much every song here. I do find that the album starts fairly slow and not too interesting, though I feel like it really starts picking up by that like third song, maybe even second too. So while you might not immediately be wowed, I would say stick around for at least 3 to 4 songs, or at the very least skip to Error 404 or Muse. In general, I think this is just a really nice example of a strong debut album. However, even with that said, there are still some cons that I have found across this album as well. One, which is very minimal, is the fact that the mixing is weird, okay? The instrumentals are fairly quiet against Moe's voice, which is significantly louder than every instrumental on every song. And again, this isn't a bad thing, but I wish there was more attention paid to the mixing. I think while yes, it is nice I can hear her, I would like to hear her surrounded by the music and not just on top of it. Aside from that, I'm really only a fan of a handful of songs from this album. I would say off the top of my head, I really love Error 404, I love Muse, No Disc is Alright, I like Left on Earth, I like Kiss Me in the Rain. Not really a fan of Stargazer, not really a fan of Occult. It's okay, it's not great, you know, but they're okay. I feel like if all of the songs were the quality of Error 404 or Muse or Moonchild, I'd probably say this could be a 9, maybe a 10, but you'd really be stretching it there. I think every song would have to be on Muse's level, frankly. So with that said, I would actually rate this an 8 out of 10, though there are some cons that I did find with this album as well. I think 8 out of 10 is fantastic for a debut project. I do really hope she continues to have this sort of inclination for more energetic electronic production. Like I said, her city pop music, it's okay. I don't mind it. I certainly don't hate it. It's just not really for me. But Muse and Error 404, which I keep harping on, of course, are just such fantastic songs. And I truly believe that if she makes more songs in that style, she's gonna skyrocket in popularity. And I would say probably not even just in Japan. I think she could really go international with it. I feel like if she released those songs on SoundCloud in like 2014, she'd be a superstar by now, like no doubt. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I really like this. I think you should check it out. And it's a short album, so you don't really need to carve out too much time to actually listen to it. So listen to it on a walk or something. It's the perfect time of year for it. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.